When we're discussing deviance, a lot of times it can be really, really heartbreaking. Um, Sometimes people struggle and they make decisions that really hurt other people. And so, wanting to take a look at a couple of the different ways that deviant acts kind of end up happening. So, technically, a deviant act is any violation of norms. It can be pretty benign, quite honestly, but it gets increasingly serious. And so, what I often have students do together is think of, and it's like the worst activity, a deviance scale. Like, what's worse? What's more harmful? What is considered more deviant? What's breaking more of a rule or a law? What's the worst thing we can do to each other? Like, that's a terrible activity, but it gets you thinking, wait a second, what are the worst things that we could possibly as human beings do to one another? And so by virtue of saying we can't do that, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, deviance actually strengthens the bonds of society because we say that things are not okay. So I think one of the most impactful theories in relation to deviance is here's case control theory. I know it looks different than apparently it's pronounced. And so the premise here is that the deviant acts occur when somebody's struggling to be bonded to society. Now, you can hear my voice kind of slowing down because this is to think about what somebody's going through, right? To try to be empathetic, to not make assumptions that drive them to deviant acts. Oftentimes we hear on the news when something terrible has taken place. And a lot of times the news organizations like to go interview, the next door neighbor or something along those lines. And oftentimes you'll hear things like, oh, they really kept to themselves. Oh, really, nobody knew them. Like that social isolation. Deviant acts occur when one's bonds to society are weak or broken. That's, I think, one of the things you can really, really carry forward from sociology. And if everybody really started to think that way, we could make some serious social change. Social bonding, as we kind of this idea of bonding, comes in four different ways. That you're attached, that you feel attachment to others. A lot of times this happens within family socialization. That you're committed to the norms of society, that you're involved in conventional activities like sports growing up or band music, like that you have places where you belong, that you've got fun parts that you love of school as much as we ever can, but like that you have a place of belonging, and then that you believe in society and societal norms. So those are the four different aspects. One other theory to share with you is labeling theory. And labeling theory has a lot of power because if you constantly hear you're really, really smart and you're really, really capable and all these types of things, you're probably going to be like, maybe I'm smart, maybe I'm capable. But in the same way, if you're constantly being labeled as somebody who's struggling, so a problematic, to be like really, really, really crass. But teachers sometimes act like this. We know that. They'll be like, oh, I'm such a bad student. Like that label has power. And ultimately, when you constantly hear negative things about yourself and labels are applied to you that have hurtful connotations, it's hard for it to not seep in. And so thinking about how words matter, labels matter, attachment matters, that beliefs matter, and that connection matters, and that is a really, really important part of looking at deviant behavior and why it happens and why people get hurt and how we can try to make the world better.